Welcome to Brian Davis Race's Racecast. Today is toad number 3 at, let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yes, toad number 3. This is the Grafton race and a really cool course. So I love this course. I've never really had a ton of success on this course, but that's okay. It's a fun course. You'll see some pretty good groups of people out having fun, partying, making a day of it, just like exactly what a bike race should be. If you live on the course of a bike race, what better reason is there to have people over to your house to drink beers and barbecue and heckle riders and make noise than what these folks do? So if you're a race promoter, or if you are a resident who lives on a race course, consider this some tips on what you should do. You should have fun. So in any event, Grafton race is underway here, and it's a 58-man field, I think. So this is Saturday before Father's Day. Pretty good group of folks, and we're off to a pretty fast start. And I've found a little ebb and flow to these Masters races in Toad. So I have a theory, right? I've noticed the first 10 to 12 minutes, probably more on the 12 side of things, is pretty bonkers. There's a lot of people with a lot of pent-up gas, a lot of strong legs that are ready to get out and shake and bake in the first 10 minutes. So my strategy typically is to hang on for dear life. Today I got up on the Grafton race. I got up pretty far right off the bat, which was nice. And then you'll see here how quickly I get shoved to the back. So I was third, fourth wheel, and then look at that. Just in a heartbeat, I'm 25 riders back. It's just unbelievable how fast you lose position at that level. So it's definitely something I'm still getting used to maintain that position, which is interesting to me because I always prided myself on being able to maintain a high position without too much difficulty. So the way that I go about that, this is probably a good tip, is that if you're the top 3-5 riders, you will inevitably get swamped, just like we saw a minute ago. And swamped is the term. People are going to be coming from the left, from the right, because the lead group is going too slow, and the people behind are trying to move up, and then they've sort of, I guess for lack of a better term, accidentally moved up too far, or they want to push the pace, one of the two. So that's what happens. So if you're wanting to stay on the front, you need to sort of what we call ride the wave. So as people start coming around the side, you need to worm your way into that pace line and move up. So my friend, teammate John, on the way down here the other day, we're talking about, you're either moving up or you're moving back. There's no maintaining a position. There really isn't. And when things get strung out, you certainly can work on maintaining, and how quickly you gain or lose position slows down quite a bit. But in the beginning of a race, like that was our first lap, right, or second lap, it is lightning fast. That was our second lap, and I went from third wheel to, now I'm a turn behind the leaders, generally, depending on where the course is. This guy is leaving me a gap, and only because they mushroomed out here am I able to comfortably get back on without too much effort. So if someone were to continue to push that pace at the 4 or 5 minute mark, I would have a hard time. And spoiler alert, you will find that out in the Waukesha race, which is going to be the race I did today. I'm doing the voiceover for Saturday's race on Sunday evening. Mainly because these files are just massive and they are difficult for me to deal with. 7, 8, 9, 10 gigs, and they just take a long time to get from the Garmin program to iMovie, and then iMovie to YouTube. It just takes quite an effort to get these files moved around. So, but anyway, onward, upward. We are trying to work on that. And when I say we, I mean me. So this race overall was a great race. I love the course, nice and smooth. Finally, after Friday's debacle at East Troy, my hands were just destroyed. So I felt like I had almost nerve damage Saturday morning. My wrists, it's really my forearms, extending down to my pinky and ring finger just had no grip strength even the following morning. So it's really that was disheartening. I was a little nerve-wracking, to be honest with you. I wasn't sure how this race was going to lay out with my hands, but it worked out great. My hands didn't bother me. I did make a bar adjustment, and that seemed to alleviate some of the pain. Although my bars did slip, I found out at the end of this race, and then we had another little bar drama in today's race, but don't want to jump ahead. So anyway, Grafton. Grafton's got a great environment. A lot of people out enjoying their downtown, having a cup of coffee, a cocktail or two, and it's just really a good time. So it's fun to race when people around are having fun. It just amps up our energy level. So here's the party off to the left. Yep, there's 50, 60 people on that guy's front lawn, and they're just having a blast. And they're out there every year ringing cowbells and yelling and screaming, and it's an absolute blast. So good for them, good for the sport, good for the race to be in Grafton, and a cool little town. Like you travel around all these communities in Wisconsin, you feel like, I don't know, could I live there? Could I not live there? I'm not sure. Grafton, I think I could live there. Nice place. So there you go. I can't say I had that feeling about every town we've been to so far, but we'll keep it positive. And we had I live in Appleton. We had a race in Appleton, a toad race in Appleton years and years ago, right through our downtown. That was really cool. It's kind of an unsustainable financially, but it was neat to have everybody up. And definitely a fun day. I remember that day fondly, and I don't even know if I raced. I'm not even sure if I raced that. Oh, I did. And then I drank lots of beers afterwards, so it was fun. So there's my Cliff Bar friend from California, John, JC, JG, JJ. I keep forgetting his initials. I'll have to ask him tomorrow again. So there you go. So the Grafton race, there's an interesting discussion or a bit of research that I was doing on the way down to this race with my teammate John. So we were looking up some of the more talented riders in our field on Strava, or at least some of the guys that I follow on Strava that I have access to their data to some extent, but it was fascinating. So I said, I'm pretty sure I said in my voiceover on the Saturday race that, on the East Troy race maybe, that I had an average of 10 or 11 hours in a week of training. I stand corrected. After looking at Strava and Training Peaks, I'm pretty far off. Percentage-wise, I'm 20% off. So I train about 8 hours a week is what that ends up being. So what I found in looking at other riders' durations was my training time is a huge part of my lack of competitive firepower, I guess. So I put a lot of stock into time. So I do have a coach, and I do try to maximize the time that I'm out on the road, but it's also important to know your limitations. And one of my limitations is I'm not a naturally gifted endurance athlete by any means. So my ability to just show up to a race and rip it is just not in the cards for me, ever. So I need training, I need time, I need to put in a lot of behind-the-scenes efforts to be competing with these guys. And I have a pretty strong feeling that many of them would say the same thing. But there are a few gifted folks who just have natural power. They've been training for decades, and they just come to the table with the ability to show up on any given Saturday and compete for a podium spot or at least a top 10 finish every time. I am not that way. So I guess what that leads me to is some decisions I need to make in my life in terms of how much time I want to devote to cycling. And I feel like I ride my bike an awful lot now, and I'm sure my wife would agree with me. So I'm not sure that I can devote X number of hours more to it. So one of the guys that we race with has a 16-hour average training week, and I follow him on Strava in the winter, and I see his training rides sitting indoors for 3 hours at a time or more, and I think there's zero chance I could do that. And I guess he gets to reap the rewards from that because he does do that and he has great success. So good for him. Hats off. Absolutely. That's just not something I'm just not sure I can push myself to suffer that much. Or somebody else, actually at an earlier race this year, somebody said, I just don't hate myself that much. So I don't know if I'd word it quite that way, but in any event, it's fascinating to think of that. Oh, yeah, that was a slip of the, so yeah, that little jiggle in the camera was, the rider ahead of me lost his wheel. And I thought for sure I was going to go down. I'm going to see if I can replay that. Alright, we're going to slow it down and watch his rear wheel slip. Oh, he caught it. Now, it's important to remember the GoPro, or in this case the Garmin camera, the bubble lens makes it look like no big deal. He's not that close to you, but believe me, everything's much closer than it appears in the camera. So that was Anderson, I believe, and he was able to rescue himself, which was great because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. You see when the camera moves like that, that's me panicking a bit and shaking the bars like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm glad that he was able to not crash. So, again, I mentioned this the other day. This is the silver lining of racing with older guys, is that we have, lost some things in our abilities maybe, but bike handling typically only gets better with age. So thank you, Anderson, for not crashing. Appreciate that, brother. So other than that, there weren't too many. There is a crash later I catch in the rear view camera, and I'll point that out when the time comes. That's actually on the last lap, third to last corner by the firehouse. In case you're looking for that, you'll get the hang of the course here soon. But that guy just lost a wheel, but you can't see it too well. But we'll see it when the time comes. Maybe I can figure out how to slow that down too. So back to racing. Let's see. We're 12 minutes in. Oh, let's see if my theory holds true. This is about when the course, or the the peloton backs off a bit, at least according to my theory. So somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes, things mellow out. So my timer started a little bit before our race time because I start the camera a little early. So the duration number is not quite accurate for the race time, but we'll see what happens. So huge cadence, interestingly. I'm trying to, I don't know that that's a conscious effort, but 124 cadence is quite a bit. And then what I was discovering on this course in terms of just managing, there's the mushrooming. So there you go, 12 minutes. That was probably right on 12 minutes. And then things just shut down a bit. I think there were a few people that were trying to get away in those first 12 minutes. And I think, again, just a little too much freshness in the first 12 minutes. So my other theory is that at about 30 minutes into the race, about halfway point, there's another slowing of the field in the Masters group. It's different for every group, and I've mentioned this before. Like a 4-5 group is going to have numerous breaks like that. A 3-4 group is going to have fewer. And then the Masters 1, 2, 3 has fewer yet, and the pros probably have next to none of those little respites. So that's the main difference. The speeds go up, but the reason the speeds go up is because we're not getting rest in there. So I want to say our average speed on this particular race was somewhere around 26.8 miles per hour, so almost 27 miles per hour. And I bet if you were to look at the pro group, it's not going to be monumentally faster than that. I could look at it, but I'm not going to, because then I get distracted when I try to look stuff up. So if anyone wants to look up the average speed of the Masters 1, 2, 3 group for Tour of America's Dairyland and the average speed for the pro group in Tour of America's Dairyland, or the 2 3s even, that'd be interesting just to see how the old guys rank with folks that are much younger. So it's interesting. So this race, I didn't feel like quitting too often. I think it was probably maybe 20 minutes in I really wanted to quit, but I persevered and ended up with a decent finish for me in this series, given the competition level and just where I'm sitting in life right now. Going into this series, I thought my fitness was pretty decent, but that discussion that I had on the way down with my teammate John, there's John right there, about the duration really had me second guessing. So John's a really strong rider. He's a couple years older than me, not many, but he has been racing much longer than me, and he does his own training. It's very well organized in terms of his structure, so good for him. But his average on Strava at least was only 5.5 hours, so I gave him a huge compliment. I just think that's impressive what he can do on 6 hours a week versus what takes me 9 hours a week to do, and we're not terribly different in terms of what we can do on a bike right now. I have a little bit better sprint, but I think he's got a little bit more power, duration in him, as proven in some group rides this past couple weeks. So, you know, yin and yang. But I'm training, you know, quite a bit more than him in terms of percentage, and I'm just barely able to keep ahead of his curve. So it's interesting. And some of these guys doing 13 hours, 14 hours a week are almost 3 times his weekly average, and he's in the pack, you know. So good for him. All right. So this race, I believe there were a couple guys. Well, I know there were. I believe it was 4. I'm almost positive it was 4. I had to ask somebody because I couldn't see anything at the front of the field. I think there were 4 guys off the front. Eventually, I don't think we'll have footage of that because, other than that first and second lap of the race, I did not spend very many moments near the front of this race. There's a lot of corners on this race, and it tends to string things out. This little kicker of a hill was not really that bad. If you did the turn previous to that wide and carried speed, depending on the traffic that you had to get through and how brave you were to go hold your line on the outside, you could carry quite a bit of speed up that hill. Maybe a quarter of the way up the hill you had leftover speed, and then you worked 3/4 up. This little chicane here dips down, and then we go up another kicker here. I hate to even call it a kicker, it's more of a roller. And again, there you could probably get another quarter of that done with leftover speed from the previous turns if you manage those turns correctly. And then we are going to shoot on a pretty good downhill here. And this will be leading us into the final turn of the race. And as you can see from the course profile on your upper right hand side, this is a greater than 90-degree turn. And there's one little crack in the pavement in the apex, and it's not so bad, no big deal. The tar, a couple tar lines in there, here, there, but as long as you're using the whole road, curb to curb, it wasn't that bad. If you got sucked up into the inside, it definitely had a pucker factor on that turn. So, such is life. So here on these straights, you know, 33 miles an hour all the way through. It's a lot of speed, I think, in my personal opinion. But look at my watts right now, just 0 watts. And what I'm doing is I'm tucking in like I'm descending a hill to try to, and I'm trying to late brake so I can catch this group without doing any effort. And I'm still, that's a long time with 0 watts, right? That whole, basically from the start finish line all the way to this side, 0 watts. And the average picks up. So this race, if my normalized power was 270, I believe. I'll check that. That's worth checking. We'll go through a little history lesson on this course. My Garmin. Oh, yesterday, 28.3 miles. Average speed 26.79, so 27 miles an hour almost. Pretty sure that's what I said earlier, not sure. Maximum power was 1,355 watts. Normalized power 276. And yeah, average heart rate 159. Max heart rate 173, which if you listen to my race casts, if you're one of the 2 people that do, you know that 173 is a huge number for me. So interesting. That's really climbed up in the last couple weeks. My heart rate, my top end heart rate has gone dramatically higher in the last couple weeks. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, to be honest with you, but it is what it is, as they say. Now I'm trying to. I feel like there was someone in this race. I wanted to comment about how they were handling some of these turns, but it's not coming to me at the moment. So we had that discussion in the East Troy race. There was a trick kitted rider that was, in my estimation, not as smooth at turning as I would have liked him to be. So. Alright, so we are a third of the way through this race, and we're still strung out. And if you look up the road there, these guys are initiating their that turn while I'm still coming out of this turn. So that, I am a long, long, long way off, you know, any sort of hope of being competitive. But if you look in the rear view, you see a pretty long group of riders behind me too. So every once in a while I'll look behind me in a group like this just to have a little self-confidence that I am actually not the last rider, so that this is good news for me. Stick to it, you know. There's not, well, it's hard to see on that little screen. I don't know, there's maybe 10, 12 people behind me, so I guess it's not that many. Oh well. Good times, good times. So, yeah, Grafton just built that apartment complex on the left there. That wasn't there 2 years ago when I raced. So, really cool building. It looks like it'd be a neat, maybe it's condos, I'm not sure, but it looks beautiful. Neat town. Really, really like Grafton. So there's a coffee shop right around the corner from the race. Oh, there's a big screen there. I never even paid attention to that. Didn't realize that was there. So that's really handy. And then there's a bike shop right on the end of the course. That's pretty cool. Eric's Bike Shop. So I went in there after the race and got a little carbon paste and got my bars squared away so they don't slip anymore. So thank you, Eric's, for giving me a thumbnail full of carbon paste. Appreciate it. They were not using fix-it sticks, but I was. I brought them with me so I could loosen and tighten my bars again. It'd be better if they had fix-it sticks. Don't you agree? We should write Eric's a letter. Dear sirs, dear madams, please buy fix-it sticks. Regards, Brian. Alright, so, it's interesting. We're approaching, maybe kind of approaching halftime, and there's this respite here. Everyone's sort of relaxing a minute. My theory, I feel like my theory holds. Maybe my theory is really every 10 minutes or so, it's hard for 10 minutes, and then we take a break, and it's hard for 10 minutes, we take a break. I don't know, maybe that has something to do with the way these guys train, or the way that, you know, I'm one of them, the way that we train, do a lot of 10-minute intervals. So, you know, guys are used to being able to hold a crazy pace for that amount of time, and then after that, their wheels fall off for a minute until they get a little bit of a rest. So, anyway, a lot of it is the reshuffling at the front. So when you're up the front, you want to stay in the front. You know, when that, like I said earlier, and that wave comes around you, you have to speed up to catch that wave. So it's just this constant speeding up process. So you're always catching the wave to go a little bit quicker, go a little bit quicker, go a little bit quicker, and you know, at some point, either a break is going to form, or we're all just going to keep going this fast until people start falling out of the back. So one of those two things is going to happen. It is inevitable. I was remiss again at the start line today. I did not talk to anyone, and I'm feeling like that's my failure. So I would like to say on this racecast that I should be more friendly at the start line and talk to the people next to me and introduce myself. I just think that would make our racing community stronger. So if you're listening to this, if you could put that somewhere in the back of your mind too, to just reach over and shake hands with the guy next to you and say good luck, have fun, or hi, I'm Brian, whatever the case is. So I just think it would be more fun for everybody. Oh, that guy's got a negative drop on that stem. Holy smokes. Let's see if he comes back into view here. Yeah, dang, look at that thing. Slam that stem, buddy. Holy cow. How low can you go? You must do yoga. So yeah, I don't think there were any crashes except that one late in the race, and I feel like there were two late in the race, and maybe the last lap there were two little tangle ups, but otherwise a very safe race today, which is nice. Always nice. Always nice to have a safe race, of course. Of course, of course. So there, my watch still, if you're looking at those watches, just doing as much as I can to arrow my way into these areas. Now I remember what I was going to talk about. So trying to be efficient in these turns. It's interesting, not that I'm an absolute expert at being efficient in these turns by any means, but I'll try to point out when I feel like I was being efficient. We can look at my watts, and then we can see the other riders around just based on their pedaling, whether or not my theory of efficiency holds true or not. So that might be an interesting exercise, just watch the guys on the inside of a turn versus the guys on the outside of the turn. And sometimes pedaling is better, because a smooth deliverance of power is going to give you a much longer day in the saddle than the spurts of sprints, essentially. So it's a theory. But like I've said in the past, I am a believer in taking a turn wide or taking a turn narrow. I think being in the middle is probably not generally the best or most efficient place to be in crit racing, in my opinion. So if you're on the outside, you're able to carry a little more speed, although you have a little more risk of getting washed out by another rider. So if they crash or slip a wheel, you're in trouble. Or if you're on the inside, then you're the one who needs to be careful. So you might, as long as you don't take yourself out, no one else, you're in control of your own destiny. I guess I'll leave it at that. So if you go on the inside, the choice, in my opinion, would be that if you're going to go on the inside of a turn, especially this turn coming up here, if you're going to go on the inside of these two turns that are back to back, you should be passing somebody. Otherwise, you should be on the outside, trying to carry more speed and rest. So this turn, I'm on the inside, but both times, and I didn't pass anybody. I did get a little bit of rest there, but so just tickled 1,000 watts there again, coming up this hill. I can only do so many of those in a day before I start to get a little tired, so that can be a problem. In fact, those types of efforts are such a problem for me that I'm for sure not going to do Schlitz Park on Tuesday. Part of Tour of America's Dairyland has a race called Schlitz Park, and there's a fairly significant hill at Schlitz Park that I don't want any part in. So I did the race, I think, 2 years ago, just so I could say I did every single race in my series from Thursday to the following Sunday. And I'd never done that in my previous Tour of America's Dairyland campaigns. I'd never done every single race, so I wanted to make sure I did that. I did it, and it helped actually because I scored some points on that race, even though I didn't finish. I did get some points because they must give points for showing up that day. I'm not sure. The Tour added a different race on this week's Wednesday that is called Port Washington, which has apparently a hill that's on par with Schlitz Park. So because it's a new course and I've never done it, I probably will show up Wednesday, but I certainly don't have much expectations. I'm not awesome at climbing hills in the middle of a crit again and again and again and again and again. That really that can be a problem for me. So here's Mike Budd. Actually, Mike reminds me this is the person I wanted to sort of pick on a little bit. And Mike's a friend of mine, so I think he'll be all right with this. So when I go through that turn, and it's just one turn, but we'll see if we catch up with Mike again later in the race. But we go through that turn back there, and I am coasting through it. The only way you can tell if I'm coasting through it, I guess you could look at the cadence too. I'm able to coast through that and rest, my watts are low, and Mike is pedaling the whole time furiously, so he's burning up some watts that I'm not burning up. So the point of that story is Mike was taking those turns on the inside when there wasn't a lot of reason to do so, or he was taking them sharper than I think he had to. And if he would round that turn out on the outside a little bit more, even though he could have the inside line, but he could still take it wider because I was taking it much wider. So he could have plenty of room to be right next to me, no problem. But he didn't, and I think he could save some energy if he were to do that through the course of the race. So it's up again and again. It's all about cumulative effort. If you can save a pedal stroke here or there per lap, that is definitely going to add up in the end. And this sprint, just to point it out, comes out of that last turn, and it is a long haul. There's the 200 meter right there. So it's probably 300 meters or 270 meters from that turn to the start finish. But it is, I think the announcers were doing a good job of explaining that to the crowd, that it's tantalizing when you jump out of that turn to just be straight on the gas and get your full out of the saddle sprint started, which I'm a sucker for every single time I do it. And today was no exception, but it is too far to carry the whole way, at least at the type of sprint that I would like to be doing. But sometimes you're forced to do it and you just got to go. So in today's sprint, I thought I was going to be able to follow someone, an intelligentsia rider that would sprint, but that person was done for the day. They saw no reason to be sprinting back where we were, which I don't disagree with by any means, but I still wanted to get my legs moving in a sprint. So anyway, I didn't get any sort of lead out from that situation, and I went off on my own and did my own thing. So we'll see that when it happens. But so we're just past, well, we're pretty much right on halfway through the race. So my Garmin said I did 28 miles, that I had a cool down lap, or probably most of a cool down lap, and we're at 14 miles. So there you go. This was by far the most gassed I've been after a race. And I think part of that is because I got a really legitimate longer sprint dialed in to the end of this sprint, or end of this ride. But yeah, I was hurting, and people on the side of the road were even like looking at me. You could tell they were questioning. Yeah, are you okay? So I'm okay. I'm okay. One guy offered me a beer. That was awesome. I did not take it. But the rider next to me did on our cool down laps. Good for him. Probably a wise move. Alright, so yeah, I should have pointed that out earlier. Well, let's catch it on the next lap. We come through that final turn. Let's see where I start, how long I can. I know I have to hit the gas pretty hard coming out of that turn, but I'm curious to see how long I can carry the 0 watt thing after that effort to come out of the turn through the start finish line all the way up to this part of the hill again. Not that I know which one's going to be efficient or not, but I'm kind of curious to see what happens here. So maybe our halftime show is coming up where everyone has a little bit of a break, so it won't be quite as impactful when we get back. It looks like that's the case. We're not quite as strung out as we were even a minute ago. Yeah, right at 30 minutes, I think we're going to get our halftime break. So look how far back I am. It doesn't, again, it just doesn't seem like I'm that far until you realize that these guys are starting the next turn as I'm coming out of this turn. That's not a good situation. It's not where you want to be. But I'm not sure how much choice I have in these matters, given my fitness, I guess. So if you've listened to these before, I'm going to say it again. The point of these race casts is that hopefully you learn a little something if you want. If you were in the race, you can see yourself or see what happened to you in another part of the race, or what happened in the race in another section. That's great. If you watch this in the winter and jump on the trainer and knock down a few hours and have something visually stimulating instead of watching Judge Judy, great. You can mute my voiceover and play some rockin' tunes, maybe some Enya, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Nicks. Not sure. Whatever you're into. that's why I do the hour-long videos, and it's easier. Somebody asked me, oh, it's got to be a pain in the butt to do the hour-long videos. Not really. It's actually pretty straightforward because it takes me an hour to do the voiceover check. So it takes me maybe an hour and a half to do the whole video after I get all the files put in the right place and all that stuff, and then I just talk for an hour. But I was telling John, my teammate who I carpooled down here with, like if I try to edit this into sections, it's a real struggle because what's interesting about that turn versus the other 50 times we went through there? I don't know. I don't know that I could pick out a story within this race, especially back where I race in this pack, to be able to put together some footage to walk you through a narrative. So I think it's just easier to do the whole race, and you can do with it what you want. So there's other YouTubers that do the same thing, and I like their videos, but I just felt like sometimes they would stray away from doing the race cast into all kinds of other stuff, and I really just want to watch the videos of the racing. So that's what I wanted to do, and here I'm doing it. And certainly I'll have other videos too, but hopefully it'll be mostly race casting, and every once in a while I'll have some sort of other video. That's my goal. And that's also my built-in excuse to go race. And motivation, not just excuse, but also motivation. Sometimes I don't really want to race. And I have to say, these first couple days of this series, the desire to not race has been strong. I would like to sit at home and not race, but it's always fun once you're out doing it. It's just all the preparation, recovery, eating, drinking right, taking a week off of having any sort of fun or not seeing my kids or my wife enough. It gets to be a bit of a stressor, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. So that's the part where I question doing Tour of America's Dairyland, but it's fun. So today I had a bad day. Not this race, but the day that I'm doing the voiceover, I had a bad day on the Tour of America's Dairyland. But I feel good still about life in general. I'm not so upset about it, so no big deal. Bounce back, race the next day. That is the good part of Tour of America's Dairyland. If you have a bad day, you just got to wait 24 hours and you're off racing again. So that's kind of cool. And it's just really neat to have such a huge, important series right in our backyard. It's kind of ridiculous to not do it. If you're a bike racer and you live in Wisconsin, I can't fathom why you wouldn't want to come out and do some of these races. And our race has been really safe this year, so no complaints. I think they put a little effort into the courses. This course has been the same. Well, I should say this: some years they have that chicane by the firehouse, and some years they don't. I'll point that out since you weren't there. Where that chicane is, it used to be. Oh, I guess you can see it in the course outline. So that little bump on the backside of where we are right now, that's not there every year, or hasn't been there every year. So I really like it. I think it adds a really cool element. I don't know if that necessarily makes it safer, but I like it. It's more fun. All right, so let's see if I work my way back up to the front here pretty soon. I know I did a couple times in this race. And again, when there was 12 laps to go, similar part of my theory about Masters racing, or at least the Tour of America's Dairyland Masters racing, is that 12 to go everybody seems to have a respite, and I can move myself up, but it just feels like a big waste of energy to do so. So I don't know if I had the self-talk going, trying to tell myself not to take the bait with 12 to go, to just save that bullet for 5 to go or 4 to go, which, it sounds like it's easy to move up, but if you don't have the fitness to do it, it's not so easy. So. But it's even harder if you go out and waste bullets with 12 to go, and then if you don't have the wherewithal to maintain that top 10 rider status in the field, you just get bumped to the back eventually. And when I say bumped, you don't physically get touched very often in these races. So you get forced to the back, and it's very difficult to fight your way back with 5 to go. So you just wasted an effort being up near the front at 12, and you spend time there till about 8, and then you get bumped back, and then what do you got? Yeah, I don't know. It's just much harder. So there's our friend, oh, not Carlos. I do not know who that is, but Intelligentsia rider calling up for some teammates to start paying attention. So it's interesting. I think that call was to say, I don't know, maybe it's to say I'm tired because you could see the pace slipped dramatically there, and maybe that gentleman was the one responsible for keeping a whippy pace going. I'm not sure. So it would be interesting to know. It would be neat. I wonder if there's some way, some way to have the Garmin overlay include a lap countdown. That'd be an interesting challenge for a developer, because you have the shape of the lap and you have the GPS files of the lap. Yeah, that'd be pretty fascinating information to have. So it'd be nice to know 10 to go, 8 to go, 7 to go. And I could probably try listening to the audio from the race, but it's mostly just wheels whirring, and we all know that sound, and it is not fun to listen to. So. Now over on the right hand side, on the edge of the screen, you can see my brake lever. So if you're curious how often I'm braking in these turns, that would pretty much be your guide. Although I'm not on that rear brake a ton, so definitely on it for that last turn. So you'll definitely see some braking action on that last turn. But this turn was pretty mellow. There's like 2 turns in one here, right? So again, if you're on the outside, you can carry a little bit more speed. You have a little more risk of one of these riders on the inside making a mistake and taking you out. There's barriers to contend with. There's a curb to contend with. And in years past, the group would sometimes burst out to the side, and you were in a bit of trouble there. So, yeah. So I had good timing on that little move, and then I tuck in behind Mike here. So Mike loves to close a gap. No doubt about that. So when I saw that little group go up, I thought, I certainly don't have the fitness to go with them, but it's easier for me to hang out and grab Mike's wheel than it would be for me to try to filter back 10 riders and recover. My guess is at this stage, those riders went up the road, the 4 riders that got away. Oh man, can't see from the footage. So either they're that far ahead, or they have not gone yet. Not sure, maybe we can see something on this straightaway coming up. And the rear view camera is definitely out of sync at the moment. So maybe I can fix that again before you are watching this. Yes, I can. So I'll do my best to get that lined up. I didn't think having that rear view camera was going to be such a pain in the butt in terms of the footage, but it is not as easy to line up as you would think. Again, I say this, I guess every one of these toads I've complained about GoPro, but GoPro and their weird 25-minute files are just much more difficult to deal with. And again, the low battery on the GoPro messed me up today, so I showed up to the race with a low battery, and I think I was able to get most of the race from today. Not this race, I'm sorry, but the day that I'm race casting, I raced a different event. Anyway, so that's 2 laps behind Mike, and Mike is controlling the activity up here in the front. Thanks, Mike. You're the best. Appreciate the wheel, my friend. And that's a good move, right? A counterattack. So that these two guys up here put in a really hard 2 laps, and then there's a counterattack. Man, yeah, maybe it's those 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll see. Maybe I was on the front when they left, when they flew the coop. That would make sense, because I'm not strong enough or have the desire to pull them back, that's for sure. And I know Mike does not make that bridge. If that is indeed the group of 4 that went off the front. So that's another thing with watching these videos. It's interesting to see. Like, that was a really good opportunity, right? If I had a little more confidence in myself. And I didn't even make an inkling toward that move, but being a racer, realizing there's a counter move, or there was a big effort and then a counter attack, you gotta know there's going to be 3 or 4 more people coming after that. So I don't know, maybe that was a preem. Who knows? Oh, I think it was. I remember now. The person I asked, there was a $200 preem. Those riders off the front went for it. I'm not sure that person who we just passed. I'm not sure what the status of that person was. But we passed 1 person, not 4. So there's definitely some riders up the road here. And so this gentleman in the black and orange that just went up, I think he's got somebody in that group and does not want us to catch them. So he is going to go do a little strategic blocking. And I'm pretty sure Intelligentsia is in the same boat. They have somebody in that little move, so they are not too keen to push. And that would be the 2 power teams. So those are the 2 that you need to be worried about. And now you see the group accepting their fate. That was the move. Huh, interesting. And they are gone. See, I mean, you just don't even see them in that, as much as you can see in that camera view. I don't see any riders up the road. Impressive power that some of these guys can just put down for a whole lap or 2 laps at a time to establish these breakaways and get those gaps. The camera is a little shaky on this piece of road. I can't see anything that far down the road. Not sure. That had to be them though, because the duration of the race has about 12 or 13 minutes left in the race, and that's about when those guys left. So, well, there's somebody up there. Now we pull one of them back. Fascinating. I'm pretty sure I'm about to get swamped toward the back here. See, I was kind of stuck on the inside there anyway, but you take the inside on both those times, and definitely had to carry some watts through both. I could not coast. If you're on the inside, you can't coast turn to turn. So I'm having to expel some watts. And wow, yeah, that's a big rest. I think I remember this. Pretty sure I'm going to pass this guy here. Let's see if I can stay with that little group. Nope, guess not. Now, there's probably some blocking going on, because we're going, but we're not really going that fast, right? I'm not sure the gentleman in the orange kit has any idea who's up the road. Oh, Hollander. I don't think any Hollander. I don't know. Don't recall if they would be up the road or not. I really, really doubt it. So I don't remember seeing too many Hollander riders, so I can't say that there's very many in their team. Yeah, that was interesting. I like this guy in that orange bike that's leading us right now. He's an orange Colnago, and I saw in another video that he's a Wisconsin guy, or at least he does WCA, or has done at least one WCA race. So talked to him briefly after the race. He's the one who told me there were 4 riders up the road, so clearly not somebody on his team because he's doing a little bit of work to try to pull them back in. But I think he's only got 1 other teammate in this series, so us teams with 1 or 2 guys, yeah, you can't really expect us to do anything like that. That's just ludicrous. Intelligentsia has 8 or 10 guys. The team from Oklahoma has 8 or 10 guys. It's just crazy. So you see, we started going so slow there that I know that we're going to get swamped around. So I peeled off, just waiting for somebody to come in and put a move in, and boom, now I'm third wheel. So that's what we call riding the wave. That was a good, pretty good example of that. So you just feel slow and you feel, oh, this isn't going to work. Somebody's going to come storming around us, and you swing out and just sort of soft pedal 1 or 2 strokes and just wait. And sure enough, boom, there's a couple guys. And then the question is, are you going to be skilled enough to be able to grab that wheel as it's going out? Because it's pretty rare that somebody's going to have an uncovered wheel at that point. So we'll get our rear view back here in a second. Hello. All right. And again, I think we're getting, I think the person on the front is, I believe that's CZ Velo. A couple of those guys are in the field, but I'm sure none of them are up front. They've been spending the week in the back with me, so I don't think they have anybody in that little move up the road. But he's pulling as best he can, I think, to try to pull them back, which is nice. But I think I have the Intelligentsia guy and the Oklahoma team, black and yellow, they're ahead of me. I think they're happy to not do much. And you see they just kind of go with moves. They're not establishing, they're not pulling anything back on their own. That Avant rider went up the road, and these guys say, okay, we got to cover that. So, boop, they're going to catch right up to him, but they're definitely not going to overtake him. Would be my guess. Let's see if I'm right. And again, because they have somebody up the road, they have no desire to pull their own guys back, of course. So we'll see when the Avant guy pulls off if anybody takes up that kind of power. That kind of speed. So we're at 23 miles an hour coming up that hill, 20 to 23 miles an hour coming up the hill, and then we're going to, Avant guy's still on front. More Intelligentsia folks are amassing toward the front, but not on the front. And the Avant guy swings off. And I have a feeling we're not going to go too much faster. And now we have Intelligentsia on the front. And I would imagine that this straightaway is not, yep, we're doing a lot of turning and goofing around and not a lot of going straight. So that's blocking, which is smart. So good for them. And blocking, just for the record, is that you don't physically get in someone's way, but you're just sort of messing up the flow of the leading end of the group so that your riders are not going to be in risk of getting pulled back. That is what blocking means. You never want to pull back your own teammate. You never want to contribute to pulling back your own teammate. Now, I don't know how much blocking occurs in the pro group, because I've watched pro races when I've been at Interbike, and I've watched pro races on TV plenty, or live web coverage, and it's pretty rare to witness quote-unquote blocking from pro teams. So I just think a lot of the guys that are racing it's kind of amateurish to do that tactic, but I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some element of it, but it's not as prevalent in this group. People are very attentive to go up and try to help their teammate by blocking. And I know, like when I did 3-4s, guys on my team would get very excited. If somebody on our group went up the road, everyone would be gunning right to the front to block. And I feel like it's easy to overdo the blocking. Especially in those lower categories, there's very little motivation for the peloton to pull people back once they've gone. So for you to go up there and do any amount of contribution is probably just doing exactly what you don't want to do and pulling back your group or making it easier for your rider up the road to get pulled back. So having a rider up the road is very beneficial to the team. Of course, they have a better shot of winning or a shot of winning, but it's also great for the guys in the back because they can, they can go do that blocking stuff, but if they don't do that, they can just get a free ride because no one's expecting them to work because they have a rider up the road. So why would I go up there and do any work? Well, you wouldn't. So you get to rest and come back out tomorrow and fight differently. Or save yourself for the group sprint and get 4th or 5th place because you haven't had to do anything for the past 30 minutes because your guys are up the road. So no one expects you to do anything, and you rightfully should not do anything. So it all makes sense, right? In some sort of moving, weird, strange chess game sort of way. So we must be getting down to the nitty-gritty. So I was in the front. You could see I was maybe 3rd, 4th wheel, and then quickly I got scuttled back to 18th wheel or wherever I am back there. So we'll see if I filter my way up to the front again. And I know there's a point in this race where I thought things were working out pretty well for me, and then in one turn I went from a reasonable position with 2 to go or 1 to go to a completely terrible position. So it's just really difficult to keep your spot at this level. Everybody wants that spot, so there's a lot of aerobic competition to get those spots. Now here, that would have been a good spot for me to pour on a little more gas if I had it, because I could have ridden that wave to end up being a top 10 wheel. Instead, now I'm a top 20 wheel still, and it's just not going to be effective enough for me to get a good shot at any sort of finish. But so be it. Here's my teammate Johnny on the inside. And then I'm going to take the outside curb-to-curb approach. You see, I just feel like it's much smoother. I did not have to work nearly as hard. I'm right on that wheel. I didn't have to do anything to get there. It's a pretty good spot. Alright, now we got a little respite with not too many laps to go, so that's kind of good. There's no way I'll make out that lap card, but just based on how much footage I have left, we are getting pretty close. My guess is there's somewhere around 7 laps to go. So I'm here in about 20th place. And this is the time, if there is indeed 7 or 6 laps to go based on the time I'm seeing on my footage, that that's 26.2 miles, and what did I say, we finished with 20, just right at 27 point something. So we're getting pretty close to the end. And I'm in a decent spot right now, not great, but decent. A little too far back, for sure. Not much I can do about it, though. Now these would be good opportunities to find somebody stronger than you that is desperate to get up to the front. See if you can grab that wheel as they're going around and get sort of a free ride up to the front. So my Cliff Bar friend, he likes to do that. He's behind me in the rear view right now. He's either in the front or the back. He doesn't spend much time in the middle. Okay. Alright. I thought there was a respite coming and I shot myself up a number of spots, but yeah, maybe this is it. I'm easily filtering my way up, which is cool. Now I didn't get a ton of spots there, maybe 3 or 4 spots, but I feel like I'm much further up, which is nice. And in order to stay here, you definitely got to get a little more power. So, 900 watts coming up this hill. That was good. This is good work, Brian. Passing a few people, clicking up some spots. Now look at that. Now I can see the front of the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm like 13, 14, 15 wheels somewhere in there. So I must have, just guessing, I got 5 spots on that last half lap. That's pretty good. Let's see if I pick up some more before the last lap, and then I get swamped. Yep, a couple guys coming on the inside. 2 guys went by. Now this guy's taking me on the inside. So probably what I should have done there is swung to the inside. Another guy coming on the inside. I should have swung to the inside and tried to block that channel. So not all these guys can be so easily passing me on the inside, but my heart rate's pretty pegged right now, 165. Again, that's a lot for me. This feels like 2 to go. Not sure. It's hard to get spots when you're going 33 miles an hour. It takes an awful lot of effort to go 35 when you're going 33 in order to get a couple spots. So, but I did. Look at that. Couple good moves. I should have stuck further inside, stayed on Mike's wheel, and here's where I lose it all, right? I'm pretty sure this is where I'm about to lose a ton of spots. Pretty good position here. Don't mind giving a little power at this stage of the race because you kind of have to. Alright. And we're pretty wide right now. This is getting I'm a little concerned about how many riders are 5, 6, 7 wide. There's our Cliff Bar guy. Yep, he's good at turning a bicycle, that's for sure. So every turn, we're having a little sprint out of every single turn. Everyone wants to maintain that position or gobble 1 up, gobble 2 up. Now this will be interesting where I go on this turn, or on this straightaway rather. Going downhill, it would have been awesome if I could have gone further inside and protected that curb side better. It's hard to say. There's not a lot of competition back where we're at for that spot. So. Is this the sprint? This is the final sprint. Okay, there you go. So, good sprint. I got 1350 watts somewhere in there. It's a long sprint, like I said. Still sprinting, still sprinting, still sprinting. I was able to pick up a couple spots here, but it's kind of ridiculous. But so I ended up 20th. I'm very happy with 20th. I got no problems with that. Given the level of competition this year, I would feel like the 20th position is not so bad. So that heart rate, just absolutely mind-bogglingly pegged for me. I can't believe it's hitting 172. It's a lot of heart rate for me. So I was definitely gassed. Let's see. That guy offers me a beer, right? Maybe it's this guy up here. Yep, guy in the red shirt. Hey, good job. Orange. You want a beer? Wish I would have said yes. Anyway, that's the end of our racecast. Like, subscribe, be sure to tune in so you can watch these in the winter, and the only way you're going to do that is if you hit the subscribe button right now. Otherwise you'll forget. So don't forget, subscribe, like, appreciate it. Buy some Fix-It Sticks. Good night now.